Happy Friday, everybody. Maury Curtis Dunbar here with Painted Studios, and we are back today working on all kinds of seasonal projects. I'm looking down here because I always have all kinds of weird notes written down on pieces of paper, and I'm just making sure that what I have written next to me, it doesn't have obscenities, so that I don't get in trouble with either Facebook or YouTube later for posting it. So, I gotta check these things. Anyway, we are gonna work on some fun holiday projects. You might have noticed that I posted some more work on our tables on TikTok and on Facebook and stuff on a time lapse. So just to remind everybody, we have a channel on TikTok, we have a channel on YouTube, we have an Instagram page, we have Twitter pages. So feel free to follow us on all of our social media because quite frankly, we do stuff that's special for each thing. And you won't all see it here on Facebook. Although you'll see most of it because Facebook's our busiest place where people interact the most. So we want to keep you all happy and busy here. Hey, Donna, nice to see you with us. So now that I've done my social media announcement, hey, Dana, nice to see you here. I'm going to flip the camera down and we're going to work on some holiday stuff. And I'm going to kind of talk our way through everything I'm doing. I'll be open to suggestions. So if you see something I'm working on that has ideas, please feel free to comment on them. Oh, Dana, thank you for the sprinkles. Maddie, nice to see you here. All right, so we'll flip the camera down and you might recognize this as the little house that I was working on yesterday. So you can see that if you remember yesterday's live, I used our Saman Castle Stone gray stain. Let's see, there's the Castle Stone. And the number on it's 011, not that I have it listed that way, so it won't help you. And then we stained the background of the house gray. And I think what we're going to try to work on here is keeping this whole thing gray, white, silver, that sort of thing. So that means I have some work to do painting our windows, painting our doors, painting the trees, all kinds of colors so that we can then put other stuff over it to continue the color look. So I think my color story, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this around so you all, I'm thinking here which way I want to do this. Sometimes I go light to dark, sometimes I go dark to light, and I'm thinking which way I want to go. So I think what I'm going to do is do light to dark. We're going to start with our snowy roof, and I've just got set coat white. Let me grab my jar. My container. As you can see, I've sprayed paint and stuff around here. Hey, Mary, nice to see you. So I have white written all over it because you can't read the label since I had it in front of a spray gun. But we're working with Faux Effects Set Coat. We'll be working with Gravel Gray today as well. So just wanted to share with you all the products since I've got it already pre-poured into cups. So this is what Gravel Gray looks like. This is clearly what white looks like, and we're going to go onto our white here. Now, I'm not applying this terribly carefully because I have things that I want to put over this because I think we're going to add some texture medium over this to actually enhance the snow. So if my painting's a little brush strokey, a little swirly, I'm not going to care because nobody's going to see it under what I'm going to put on next. And I do want to put something like set coat on this wood before I put texture medium because it'll provide a better surface and a better bond. Plus, if I get spots that are thin, then I have white on top of white, so it'll look continuously more like snow as opposed to stuff I stuck on wood. So let's get that all painted. People have said very kind things that my hands are very steady doing this and that sort of thing. And obviously I can't quite stop myself from smoothing out my paint because that's the nature of furniture painting. You smooth out your paint. Plus I don't like to waste it. If I have a big glob of paint here and I have a blank spot here, I'm going to take the glob of paint and move it around because I'm not trying to create texture with the paint. I'm just trying to create coverage. And I'm sealing up all those spots, like right here where I got the stain on it last night that I didn't mean to. I put a little top coat on there to seal it up so it won't bleed into the white. I hope I got it on there well enough. I wasn't paying attention when I did it. I was on the phone. Not on the phone filming with you guys. I was actually on a telephone call, so I kind of didn't pay attention to what I was doing sometimes. We'll find out. If it bleeds through the white, then I didn't seal it very well. Okay, so I've got the white on the roof, and I still have white to get here and here, but because I need to put another color there, I might hold off just so that I get a cleaner result. And I'm going to take another brush and I'm going to dip into my gray, and I'm going to paint the windowsills or the window frames. Why? Because I know I'm going to foil these frames later, and I need the right undercolor. So let's get that all painted. I'm going to zoom in a little so you all can see a little better. Let's see if I can get my camera to zoom. There we go. And then I'll pull it so that you can see. And I'll turn it so that you can see a little better. Now this looks like I should be very worried about my lines, but I have dimension here. This wooden frame around the window is a cutout. So I don't know who's calling me. I turned off my cellular data. Somebody must have an iPhone and do Wi-Fi calling into me. Now these I have to be more careful of, because while this one's raised, these lower ones down here are just burned into the wood as part of the design. So I've got to turn it around so I can get at it a little easier, making sure my hand is where you all can see it. Oops, and I just dipped into the white, so now I need to offload that on a piece of paper towel. I'm not going to rinse out my brush. It doesn't need to be rinsed, and all the water will do is cause too wet a bit of paint to smear around. I just offloaded it. Now this is going to be a little more patience required to paint this. And when I goof up, because I will, and you'll all see me do it, I don't worry, because mistakes are generally correctable. Now, I know a lot of people can paint, and we're going to have a little conversation about brush strokes. This is a really heavily loaded brush. I've got a lot of product on, but it'll show well for what I'm about to demonstrate. So some people will paint one side, and then they use the bristles up and they flip it over and they paint the other side. That's me. Some people can paint and rotate their brush so that their paint distribution's a little more even. I don't generally paint that way. I have for specific things, but let me tell you, paint the way that you're most comfortable, but don't choke up on your brush. See, you don't want to choke up down like this. It's really tempting, but you're so tight on your brush like that, that's actually how you end up going out of the lines. If you're back a little further on your brush, you have a little, believe it or not, you actually have a little more control over where your brush goes because your hand moves better. I'm not one who can paint this far away from my bristles and easily get control because I need to brace my hand. Some people can. I've seen, there are people, you'll see this, and forgive the nail file, I use that for sanding stuff, but you'll see people on walls with a wrist brace like this that they're holding on to, and then they can paint further away from their surface and get a little more control. And that I can do as well. I can go, the more bracing I have on my wrist, the further away I can actually paint something. And that's a good practice thing. I learned that from muralists who are very gifted with how not to paint on a wall and have your hand smear through your work, because that was always a challenge for me. All right, I got that, excuse me, I got that window painted except for one little spot right there. Check and make sure I got them all. Because things look one way when they're wet, and then they can look completely different drying up. And I can see my paint's drying in certain spots, so like right here, the paint's sucked in really hard, so I need to put a little extra paint there. Now I know this gray is not going to be what shows, but if I get a good even coat at this layer, then it's going to be better for the next layer. I forget sometimes that I'm really super zoomed in, so you might not be able to see exactly what I'm doing if I move my hand out of the zoomed in area. Love this. This kind of work I find very relaxing to do. The hardest part for me right now is to keep talking while I'm doing it, because the talking I find distracting. Whereas this, I'm just sit there and do this for hours. And see, I got a little tiny bleed right there. Watch. Oh no, I wiped it off with my finger. So now I don't have a bleed there. I have a little smear, but since I haven't gotten that background color in yet, not terribly worried. Getting too choked down on my brush and it's messing with me. Love doing this kind of stuff. This makes me so happy. Just sitting and doing something small and hyper focused. It's also why, you know, on my spare time, the little bit of it that I have, let's see if I got a little smear there, a little tiny. I do needlepoint because I love small intense work as much as I love big work. It just allows me to change my focus and go small and go very quiet. All right, now we have to get the outside border. And I can go with a bigger brush with this if I want, but I don't necessarily have to. This brush happens to feel good in my hand right now, so it's the one I'm sticking with. And I'll paint Snow White down here, and I'll do the snow here and here. And then I'll figure out how I'm handling the trees and the twinkle lights that are all along the edges in a few minutes. Now, normally I might do the inside of the windows here white, or yellow or gold to make it look like lights glowing, but because this whole thing is gonna have a black, white, and gray theme, I'll probably do the inside of the windows black and maybe apply a little bit of black foil or something just to make it pop a little. Then again, I might not. Once I get certain things done, I might decide that I just want those windows to recede. And I won't do that. Who knows? And again, I got this cutout from the dollar store. And I might do a little field trip because apparently my local dollar store is a maker's corner, meaning they have a lot of crafty stuff in there. So I might go back, take you all with me, and we might do a little live in the dollar store with all the goodies available, and choose some more to bring back here to the studio to work on. I might find some cool stuff. We got things to do on, and you know, the funny thing is, in general, I'm not a dollar store person just because they're never really located near what I need to be doing. So I end up at Target a lot more. And we know I've found some pretty cool stuff at Target. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of cool stuff shows up at Target for Christmas and what kind of more cool stuff shows up at the dollar store. I mean, listen, I already got this and the cutouts and the ornaments and all kinds of fun stuff. So dollar store's already been pretty good to me for Christmas this year. And I got a little bleed right there. And clean that up with my fingers. You can clean it up with Q-tips. So the trick with cleaning up a bleed is not to wipe away from the paint, it's to wipe into the paint. Because if you wipe away from the paint, then you might pick up more paint on the edge and smear it up here. Whereas if you wipe into the paint, it's just gonna push it back into the same area that you were working on. You might have to clean up your brush stroke a little. So how would you all feel about a trip to the dollar store? Do a live. Could be interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that this afternoon. After I finish with this, maybe I'll just put the clothes sign up for an hour or so and go over to the dollar store with you all. And we can pick out fun things. I kind of have that in my head to do today, so that's sort of why I keep repeating it. Plus, I'm painting, so the same thoughts tend to run in a loop in my head while I paint too. So I asked my husband, this is one of these things that fascinates me, if he has an inner monologue going on. And those of you who have one know exactly what this is. My thoughts in my head run in full sentences, full scenarios, the whole 9 yards, all day, every day. When I stop talking, everything that I think is in full color, full sentences in my mind. Apparently not everybody has that, and my husband is one of those people. And I just, now I understand sometimes our conversations too, because I have so many full sentences floating through my head that when we have a conversation, sometimes I can't stop. Whereas he has to actually form the sentences before they come out. And I find that fascinating. All right, so now we're going to do the door, which is right here. And again, we're going to do that in gray. So we're obviously going to be painting this in several colors of black, white, and gray. And then we'll probably move on to foiling in layers, meaning I won't apply foil adhesive everywhere all at once because I won't be able to have control where I need it. And so, you know, something like this takes me much longer than, say, like an ornament where I can put foil adhesive on the whole thing. Even if I want a pattern, I just lay a stencil over it, release some foil in the stencil, then foil the background. And I know you know what I mean if you've been watching me, because you've seen me do it any number of times, and goodness knows we'll probably do more of it even later today. So I know, I know you all understand what I'm doing. I know you all see it, but I think sharing the whole process helps other people think things out. So I've changed my angle. The paint's dried down. I can see some spots that I've skipped. Not intentionally, but sometimes when there's paint on something and you get a shine on it, you can't always see the places where you might have needed to apply a little more. So I'm able to tighten down on my lines up here at the top and around the window panes. And unintentionally, my brush will slide down and get closer and closer and closer, and then I have to work it back. Let's tighten up around those windows frame a little bit. Okay, so we've got all of that paint applied. I'm going to stick that brush in a cup of water on the side. And I'm going to take that bigger brush too for the white, and we're going to take another smaller brush and go back into our white set coat. And why am I using a smaller brush? Because these areas are smaller. I'm looking to see what you all can see me working on, because I have this zoomed in, so my frame of work area is pretty small and I can't always see. Like if I go off a little bit, you won't see what I'm doing, and I have to look up and check. I'm also, if I haven't answered your questions, it's because I can't see this with the camera pointed down and me looking at the work. Let's get this over here. Now this is clearly one of my true beater brushes. The handle's all junked up, the ferrule's loose. This is the ferrule, and this is loose like a little kid's tooth. But I keep using it because it keeps fitting into spots for stuff I need. And when the brush end and the ferrule eventually fall off, I'll just glue it back on. I do that with a lot of brushes. Just because this might become disattached from the handle doesn't mean the brush is ruined. It means you need to get some glue out and fix your brush. So I've got the white on there. Let's get the white down here. This is already looking cute. I mean, if I walked away from this now, it would be cute. So just imagine where I'm going to go with this. So I'm doing one of these in all the gray tones. It'd be fun to do one in browns and golds too. Come on. Almost done on that. All right. I think the last color that needs to be applied is some black. I have set coat black here in a little jar. Let's see if I can get it open today. Yep, there we go. Opened up for me. And then I just need one more small brush to go in and do those details. Now, I'm gonna be really slow and really careful. Hey, Lisa, nice to see you. All right, I'm gonna pull this back in. So I'm gonna do black in here, and I've gotta go slowly and carefully so I don't screw up the other colors. Now, normally I might have gone in with black first, but since I didn't have my plan too well thought out, sorry, I got a piece of fuzz in here that wants to drag around. I just wanted to lay out the rest of the design first before I knew exactly where I wanted to put black, because I can overdo black really easily, paint too much stuff black, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, that's not what I wanted there. And then it takes a lot of work to paint over black. So I'm going to turn this so I can see all my edges. Get my corners in. So you can see I kind of blob the paint in the center, and then I can feed it out. That way I don't overload at the edges and have a lot of unsightly bleeding or buildup. And then I turn it around so I can get it at it from another angle to make sure I'm getting all of my missed spots. And see, I missed a spot or two here just because I didn't have that angle facing me when I was doing it. And I'll come up in here. I need a little more paint. Just do it this way on both of these. See, you learn each piece that you work on. You learn a little something. And if I get a little paint up there, I just stick my finger and wipe it down because I know I'm going to be doing other stuff on here. So I want to get all the paint on in this pass, even if I kind of get some black in the wrong places. I'll touch that up in a minute with the gray. Because then I'm going to let this dry, come back and put some foil adhesive on some spots, and we're going to work on our next layer. All the way in there. I don't want to miss anything. Okay. Now I got to come and paint the windows and the door and everything. You'll see that I'm about to paint the wreath black as well because I know what I want to apply over it, and the dark background will be perfect. So I'm just sort of tapping the paint in here, working it into the spots that don't like to have a brush shoved in them, pretty much. I get a little aggressive, I can get little paint blobs. I'm not that worried. I know what I'm doing next, so it'll, you know, I work with the idea that I'm going to make a mistake so that nothing is perfect. The flaws are part of the look, and oh yeah, I can fix it so it looks perfect. I know where the mistakes are, nobody else will. And hand painted, this is something I know we all struggle with, especially if you're at all a perfectionist. Hand painted is not supposed to look flawless. If that were the case, then it would be machine made. And hand painted, you're supposed to have some variations and some little blubbles, which is what I call when I get a little blob of paint somewhere. I know it's a funny word, blubble. I've said it, oh God, I think I've said it forever. I don't know if my mother made it up or my grandfather, but I remember it from childhood. But it pretty accurately describes what happens when you blob up a paint somewhere. You blubble it. So right now the wreath has pretty solidly disappeared from vision, especially on the camera. I know you guys are not going to see it very well now that I painted it out. But it will reappear, I promise. Okay, let me rotate again. Oh, I can see some spots. And see, this is why I tell everybody, you got to rotate your piece. If you don't rotate it, you don't see the spots that you missed. And everybody does. I miss spots. It's perfectly normal to miss something because you're not looking at it from the angle where you're going to see the gaps. But once you turn it, all of a sudden, all those little missed spots show up bright and shiny. So I can see them all right here. Drop of paint on the tip of my brush. And I'm having a good steady hand day. You guys are seeing me make very minor bleeds, but there have been days, and I'll tell you, they're bad, where I have just globbed it up. Every stroke I took was a mistake. And I wasn't able to get any good results. A birdhouse here that I painted 3 times because no matter which way I went at it, my hands just would not stop globbing the paint on it. Finally said, forget it, I'll foil it, I'll be more accurate. Paint in the lid here so that I can stop dipping into the jar because I can't see how much paint I'm getting on my brush. I just poured off a little drop. Work this little corner because my bristles want to splay right now and make a mess. So I'm trying to keep that from happening. I haven't painted the trees yet because I'm not quite sure where I'm going with them. I don't know whether I'm going to paint them a neutral gray color so I can do other lighter color over it, if I want to go black so that I can put deeper colors over it and have it look good. I need a little water, I think. My set coat is a little drier than my other ones because it's an older container. so it's not spreading quite as nicely. Just put a little water in it from my brush, and there we go. It's spreading nicer now. Now, set coat is, in general, designed to be thinned up to 20% with water because it is a thick paint, and when it first opens, it can feel a little puddingy even. So putting a little bit of water in there can loosen it up and extend it. I recommend distilled water if you're going to pour it right into the container, because that'll help keep fungus from growing. If you use regular water, it has impurities. Regular water right out of the tap has impurities that will contaminate your paint over time. So use distilled water if you're going to pour it into the container. Ooh, almost dropped my brush. Now, if you're just pouring it out like I am into a jar, you know, or into another container that you're going to paint from, you can just pour water in it as long as you don't pour it back into the main container. Come on, get there. Now, I will tell you honestly, most of my paintbrushes are 5 to 10 years old, some of them substantially older. I take care of my brushes. I buy good brushers. I take care of my brushes, and they take care of me. This one in my hand has got to be, I don't know, let me take a look at this one. I probably bought it about 7 years ago. Looking at the handle, looking at the name on the label, I have to think about where I bought it. So I probably bought this, my guess is I bought it in New Jersey when I was visiting family there and went to the Jerry's Artorama outlet. And yeah, so if you buy good brushes and you take good care of your brushes, they will last you a very, very long time. Now, I've also gone through brushes on one job, and not from lack of care, but I've done huge murals where you're brushing on cement and you're brushing and brushing and brushing on, or not cement, on walls, and you just wear the bristles off. You know, I've worn brushes down to nubs, but before they got to that unusable nub, man, you can get some really beautiful stuff out of them. And even the nubbed down brushes I've had great use for. They provided incredible texture. So I try not to throw out a brush unless I have truly, truly crapped it up. Meaning I've left stuff on it that the only way to remove it would be to put it in paint stripper, and then that's pretty useless too, because then the paint stripper ruins the brush. So, you know, make the effort, invest in a good brush, take good care of it. It'll last you forever. I used to go to a lot of conventions for painters, and you know, back before you could buy everything online, my favorite thing was to see what the brushes were that everybody was carrying this year, so I could go and stock up on brushes. For those not familiar with him, Pierre Finkelstein. I think it's pierrefinkelstein.com. I'm not sure, but Pierre Finkelstein makes fabulous brushes. And he sells Kolinsky's, but he has private label ones too. And they're just wonderful brushes. And they are not inexpensive. And they're worth every penny. I have Finkelstein brushes that I've had for at least a decade. And they're still as good because I've taken care of them as they were the day I bought them. Okay, so you can see now we've painted our house. And yeah, I've got some flaws in my painting, but I'm not worried. I'm gonna paint, I think the last thing I got here to paint is my trees, and as I was talking and working it out, I'm actually gonna paint the trees black because I finally figured out what foil I wanna put over them to make the trees look more tree-like, but cool. So I'm gonna, after this is dry and before we come back live to do the rest of this, I'll apply foil adhesive, our Artsyville foil adhesive on here to have it ready to go for foiling. And this is gonna take several steps of foiling. Sorry, I'm trying not to dip in the wrong paint. Because we're going to have different colors going on, and some of them will be in here right on top of each other, so we are going to have to do the foiling in steps. All right, we're almost there. I'm going to get this tree finished and then do the other one. And then we will be done for this live. Because then after this, I have a whole lot of foil adhesive to apply to a whole lot of stuff for our next live. And again, please go check us out on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Twitter. We're kind of all over social media right now, so follow us there in each different place because the content is different. You'll see things that you haven't seen here. Also, YouTube is where we archive all of our Facebook lives that you do see here, so that you can go back and find them for reference much easier. Facebook makes it hard to scroll back through videos, but YouTube makes it very easy. So please go check out all our different social media so you can find different ways to access the information that you want. So the last thing I want to do is just turn it one more time so I can check and see if I've missed anything that I need to deal with other than that big blob of paint that I left sitting in the middle of that tree. Okay, so you can see we are painted and ready for the next step. Now this honestly looks pretty cute the way it is. I'll figure out during the break what I'm doing with the little lights. I don't know if I'm going to paint them white. I don't know if I'm going to paint the black. I don't know if I'm going to paint them gray. I got to think about that one a little bit. Because while I figured out the trees, I didn't figure out those. All right, everybody. So let's flip this back up and zoom out so you don't have to look up my nose. All right, I'm going to take a second, roll through here, see if I missed any questions. Let me scroll all the way back to the beginning. Okay. Lori Mills, nice to see you. Thank you for popping in. And Susan, Kathy Brown, thank you. Yes, Susan, it's like coloring. It's very calming. Kate, nice to see you here. And Ginny and Mary Alice. Oh gosh, you guys are you're all so sweet. Oh yeah, Susan, you don't have Dollar Trees where you are, I know. It's an American thing. I'm not sure where it came from, but I enjoy the benefits of it. Renee, Julia, thank you for popping in. Hey Rima, nice to see you here. Gosh, all of you, Peggy and Annette, thank you all for coming in. And Jean, I appreciate it. Gosh, you were all there. Hey Lisa, Sandra, nice to see you. And Deborah. Boy, you guys are awesome. Thank you, Avis and everybody, and Rianne, all you guys for popping in. I appreciate the time here. So I've really got a little shout out today. We're going to take this for beyond cute, by the way. It just looks cute as it is. I mean, I love how the stain looks with the paint, but we're going to make it look even cooler. So, all right, everybody, I will be back in a little while. I can't promise I'm not going to be back at the dollar store or if I'm going to be back here. I don't know which way my day is going to go. I think it depends on how the phone starts ringing and how much paperwork I have to do, too. All right, everyone, have a good one. We'll see you shortly. Bye.